Mr. Dodd.
Much, Senator Pan. I don't know. I'm kind of the more questions that are asked, I'm kind of getting a little bit more of the mode, wondering why this bill is even necessary. If the locals can regulate this, it just seems to me that that's where this should be. The city right now can say no to these anyway. This is my understanding from what the testimony that I've heard. Currently, anywhere you are, you can drink on a pedicab. That's what I'm hearing here, or once again, that's the locals will tell you whether you can drink on them or not. So this bill is permissive and allows drinking on pedicabs. If you're shaking your head, no, sir.
So the reason we're doing this bill is because there's been confusion because you have an interface between local and state law. So what happens? There's actually absence, and that's then creating confusion among municipalities. So, for example, here in Sacramento, there's our city's concerned because there isn't a state standard for safety and also defining these specifically in statutes. So, as I think you heard in testimony earlier, there was some confusion in terms of in part of the city saying, well, how do we permit these because they don't actually exist in state statute, and also I think that at least certainly our city appreciated having a conversation and establishment of some standards statewide that they can apply to being able to feel comfortable in terms of doing the licensing. So while yes, the municipality has the final word in terms of opting in and so forth, at least my municipality wants this kind of standard and law to create clarity because there's actually absence of regulations or law that's creating confusion and perhaps.
Mr. Chair, can I follow up, please?
I think he wanted an explanation to further his.
Okay.
And we could.
Yeah, I can explain. So currently you cannot drink on a pedicab. This bill would allow cities only to authorize this subsection of pedicab, of pedal-powered quadricycles. It would not allow for just any traditional form of pedicab to allow for alcohol consumption. And just to further your point as to why the bill is needed, currently in Sacramento there are two vehicles that are operating under different corporations. One is currently operating as a pedicab, and the other is operating as a party charter carrier. So just in this city alone, there is a discrepancy between how they're regulated. This bill would unite all of the regulation under one subsection of the pedicab. So that was the necessity for the bill. Thank you.
All right, so explain how this goes. So does the pedicab operator now have the ability to either sell or provide alcohol to its occupants? Because I think it would clearly be a violation if you walked out of a bar with an open container and jumped into a car. I'm not positive about that, but that seems like that's...
Yes, that is correct. It would not be a license to serve or sell alcohol or distribute. Individuals would have to bring their own alcohol in closed and sealed containers. The only place that they could get alcohol on the route would be from breweries or establishments that have that class of liquor license that could sell closed alcoholic containers off-site, such as growlers. But other than that, no. There is nowhere during the current operation or future operations where individuals would be able to leave a bar with an open container. That would still certainly be against the law.
Thank you.
Mr. Chu. And after Mr. Chu, we'll have Mr. Linder, Mr. O'Donnell, and Ms. Melendez. As I said, everybody's got questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my first question is toward the police chief. Does any cities, or say Sacramento, for example, do we allow public to drink, like open up a bottle of alcohol, whiskey, and drinking on the street corner?
Public consumption of alcohol is generally outlawed. The issue, except under specified permitted instances, the issue here is with the clarification of the definitions in this bill, it will in fact make it easier to license these pedicabs. And since it also will be up to the jurisdictions on whether they want to have alcohol or not, we think that what's going to happen is there'll be an expansion of alcohol drinking on these pedicabs. An easy way to fix that is simply to say that a prerequisite to get licensed to have a pedicab is no open containers on them. If you want to use it to go from bar to bar, that's fine. But not to have, the issue here is having open containers and people drinking on these when they're traveling from point A to point B. That's the concern, and that would be easily remedied in this legislation with an amendment that would specifically outlaw that.
So I just clarify, currently in the city of Sacramento, you cannot just open up a bottle of whiskey and start drinking on the sidewalk.
Well, I would be happy to get back to the committee. I'm not an expert on all of Sacramento's ordinances, so I don't want to give wrong information. My understanding is that you're correct. That's not allowed. But I'm not the authority on the city of Sacramento or county of Sacramento's ordinances, so I would want to defer to somebody that was. But happy to look into that and get back to the committee.
Do you
or get
know
back
of
to you,
any
sir.
city that will allow the residents to, stand on the street corner and open up a bottle of whiskey and consuming that?
Well, it's certain types of public events where there's licenses granted for food and beverage to be served. Sometimes that includes alcoholic beverages. That's different than having a vehicle on a public street traveling from point A to point B. So those are very different circumstances.
Okay. And also to Dr. Pan, in this bill, if the party cab was stationed versus when there was moving, do you distinguish that? I mean, will we be able to consume alcohol when it was just parked on the street, or we will only allow them to consume alcohol when the pedicab is actually moving? Do you address that?
I mean, there's no distinction in terms of the cab being in motion or not. I mean, it's the licenses for the cab and requiring that you have monitor on board and there's a driver on board, so it's not quite the same as having someone, just like you have people who drink on a limousine. We don't say that when the limousine stopped at a red light, you have to stop.
Thank you very much. I heard your answer,
okay,
and that's a big concern of mine. So I'm wondering, and to go one extreme, that we can have a lot of those, pedicab that just pretty much park on the street of the corner of the street. And allow people to serve alcohol and not really using the cab to take the passenger from place A to place B, but just a stationary bar there, So that's a concern of me. And thank you very much for your answer.
If I may just respond briefly, I would hope that the city, which is licensing this vehicle, would, if that becomes a public nuisance, would have the power to act and remove that operator's license if they were just operating in a way that is inconsistent with
does it require a state license?
No, the municipality would be the one.
Thank you, Mr. Chu.
Pedicab requires state license?
No,
It's
it's city license.
The city license.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chu.
All right.
And also thank you for clarifying about the limousine being able to drink in the back. And any city that has a condition of approval on a business license can yank it for conduct unbecoming. Right. So thank you for that. Mr. Linder.
Okay, there's a little bit of confusion. We've been kind of asking each other this question because we've seen in the bill that that the current regulation is that a city must opt in. There's some confusion. We're trying to understand, and we're looking through the bill to try and find out if indeed that this bill makes it so that cities by default will be opt-in, and they would and this bill would mandate that they actually take some kind of action to opt out from the regulation. So the fear is that in the case of the question where Mr. Achajian was asked or had asked, where a vehicle traveling at 15 miles an hour was driving, and there was a slew of cars behind them that wanted to go at 45 miles per hour, that these vehicles would by default be allowed to exist, I guess, in these cities, and that the cities would act to proactively create laws against them or to restrict their use. Is that
So the bill, and we certainly be happy if there's concerns about that to also put that to clarify. But clearly, the intention of the bill is it's an opt-in, and that the municipality would be regulating these entities, including their location and routes. So if you feel there's confusion in that regard, we can certainly look at the language and strengthen that. But we certainly are. The intention, as we wrote the bill, is that it's an opt-in by the municipality. It's not an opt-out. And so the municipality would have to actively step forward and say, we want to license these vehicles, and can actually define where they can operate and on which streets they operate in the city as well, the municipality. Yeah.
Mr. O'Donnell. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Melendez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Pan, I appreciate that you're trying to add some clarity to this, but I'm looking through here, and this says pedicab, so the definition, because you're defining it in statute, as right?
Right.
So it says, and I'm on the first page, so it says here, definition to include a four-wheel device that is primarily or exclusively pedal-powered, has a seating capacity of not more than 15 passengers, cannot travel in excess of 15 miles per hour, and is used for primarily transporting passengers. So with your particular case, it sounds like you have one of the larger vehicles, the 15-seaters. So, but this would also cover the smaller ones that maybe only can hold 2 passengers in the back. So does that mean that they would also have to have a safety monitor on board, or is that only...
The safety monitor would only be in circumstances where alcohol is permitted, and I apologize if the language was not clear. We could certainly add clarifying language that this is a subsection of pedicabs. So this would not be applicable to the traditional pedicab. This would only be to the subsection of pedal-powered quadricycles.
Okay, because that's not clear in here.
We would be happy to include that language.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And also...
Yeah, because it says section D here.
Do you have to have a safety monitor now? Do you have someone like that now?
Currently, no. There is no safety monitor on board, and this would only be in the cases where alcohol is being served. We tried to do something akin to a limousine. The police chiefs had brought forward their concerns that this is an open-air vehicle, unlike a limousine, which was partially the impetus for a safety monitor on board. Currently, there is alcohol on these vehicles in other states, and they do not require a safety monitor. Obviously, we are California, and we wanted to go a step above and beyond and ensure the public safety, which was the impetus for the safety monitor.
Okay, I see. Well, it seems we are all getting a little twisted around the axle about the alcohol issue in this. I don't know that that's perhaps the biggest problem. I have to share some of the concerns of my colleagues that I wonder if we could not allow local municipalities to set the standards rather than us doing it for them. I know you mentioned there seems to be a lot of chaos by a lot. Can you define that? Because you're here locally, right? So you've had a little bit of problem. But wouldn't it make more sense to say to your Sacramento elected officials, look, can you guys, would you do something to address the confusion that exists here so that we can operate in a safe manner and a legal way? Is that not an option? Rather than us try to, do the one size fits all?
I think one of the challenges, of course, is that some of the categories of different vehicles is established in state law. So that creates some challenges in regards to why the city said, can you please do something at the state, that the city didn't feel like that they could address it themselves alone just through municipal law here.
Okay.
And so that's one of the reasons we brought this bill forward.
Was there any consideration given to just maybe even defining pedicab in statute and letting the locals deal with it, the rest of the issues?
standard?
Yeah, to a certain extent, but the city attorney actually from Sacramento was one who wrote a letter initially off the chain, went to the city, went through this process of trying to handle it at the local level. The city attorney wrote back, we've never seen anything like this before. If you could do something at the state level to give us guidance here, that would be appreciated, which is one of the reasons why we went to Dr. Pan and began running the bill.
And I think, again, if looking at what the bill is requiring, it's basically you need to have an operator who's 21 years of age. You have to have seat belts, seat backs, brakes, reflect. I mean, these are things that I think most of us, when we look at them, would say make a lot of sense. They're not. We're not trying to overly regulate things. Clearly, in terms of the subsection regarding onboard alcohol, that's when the safety monitor comes on board and the need for them to be educated. And then also states very clearly the local authority can impose more stringent requirements, operating or equipment requirements on the pedicab. So we're setting a broader outline and then saying that the municipality can, for their own purposes, to be sure for their own municipality, establish additional requirements for the municipality. But then it creates the specific category and it creates a framework by which municipality can then do their regulations and their laws in terms of operation in their particular municipality.
And I appreciate that. Does this bill? Where does this bill go from here? Should it pass out of here?
Geo.
To Geo. Okay. So I'll tell you what, Senator Pan, because I think there may be a few more iterations of this bill, judging by the questions that were asked today, I'm going to lay off today. Because I do understand you trying to make the framework and not do it in a burdensome way, but there are a couple things that I'm a little hesitant about. So I'm going to lay off for today.
Okay. But certainly, I appreciate that we can continue to dialogue, and if you have specifics, so that we can earn your vote later on.
Thank you.
Let's go with Assemblymember Baker, and then Mr. Bloom. You can add some clarity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate, Dr. Pan, that you are trying to help your constituents and help a potential business in the state. I share our colleagues' concerns about the alcohol consumption, and the same thing with the police chiefs, and appreciate that you're willing to keep working on that. I think the reason why I'm also concerned is this does appear to be an opt-out, not an opt-in. By making a change to the vehicle code, which applies statewide, that makes, and saying in 21.5.5 that a city can make its own regulations, that to me sounds like an opt-out. And I hope that we can dialogue, and as it goes to either another committee or certainly to the floor, that we could make this an opt-in or work on really clarifying the language. Because I truly believe, I think it's on page 3 of the bill, line 34, if you're looking for it, but I think that's the section that is making this, that in combination with amending the vehicle code, is making it an opt-out right now. And so I look forward to that. I, as well, will be remaining off the bill and look forward to seeing it help get cooked a little more and reach a good consensus. Thank you.
Assemblymember Bloom.
So, because this conversation's been going on for a little while now, I've had the opportunity to check in with Santa Monica.
Oh, excellent.
And what are the words of wisdom from Santa Monica?
And, well, I can't tell based on the conversation I've had whether or not Santa Monica has had any specific law enforcement issues. They may or may not, so I'm not going to weigh in on that. The concern that Santa Monica had was over the number of seats. The language in the bill, as it's currently stated, has a maximum, or appears to set a maximum of 15 seats. And guess what? The beach barcicle has 15 seats. So the issue I think they have, and my understanding is your office, Dr. Pan, is working with the folks there, is whether the intent is to cap the seats through the bill or let locals. And then they have some suggested language about how to do that. But I think that Santa Monica believes that local jurisdictions already have the authority that they need to regulate, so this would be additive to that authority. But I think the message that I'm getting clearly here is that Santa Monica is not trying to stop this bill. Sure. So I will, again, support it, and again, subject to however things are worked out.
Thank you. And we certainly look forward to working with the city. Thank you.
Senator Pan, would you like to close?
I appreciate the discussion we've had here today. Again, we want to try to work to be sure that, one, the intention is opt-in, not opt-out. So we're certainly eager to work on to clarify that particular issue. And this really is trying to create an opportunity for small businesses to operate where I think that they've proven to be very popular in many cities. I'm pleased to hear from the former mayor of Santa Monica how popular they've been in his city, and we'd like to bring it for other cities that are interested in having this, to create this opportunity. Clearly, my municipality feels that this law is necessary to make that happen here, and would certainly appreciate your aye vote. Thank you.
Senator Pan, I do appreciate the safety framework your bill has establishes for these very popular party bikes. And as a former business owner, fostering economic possibilities is paramount as we go forward. But I am concerned about provisions of the bill that allow local jurisdictions to authorize alcohol consumption on these bikes. Thinking back to my days as mayor, I could see all sorts of problems with this. But again, conditions of approval dictate how long these folks can actually operate. However, we already allow drinking in the back of limousines, as you stated, and I don't see how the party bikes are that much different other than they're open. Because of this and the safety measures that, again, as we've mentioned, and the parameters that you're putting in there, this bill does include those good measures. I'm going to go ahead and vote for your bill today, but I do want to address some of the committee members' questions or statements today about opting in as a possibility rather than opting out. I think that is something that should be looked at. And again, creating possibilities for economic development is paramount, and I know that that's your sole intention. But I don't want to promote bad actors working in cities going forward. So with that, I'll be supporting your bill, and I'll be following it very closely. So with that, Madam Secretary, you know what? We don't have a motion. Second. We have a motion and a second. We'll move forward with the Madam Secretary with the rule. Oh, actually, well, yeah, we'll actually sing you happy birthday before we adjourn. Madam Secretary.
Frazier.
Aye.
Frazier. Oh, I'm sorry. The motion is due pass to the Assembly Governmental Organization Committee. Frazier.
Aye again.
Frazier, aye. Ashajian. Ashajian not voting. Baker.
Not voting.
Baker not voting. Bloom. Bloom, aye. Campos. Chu.
Not voting.
Chu not voting. Daly. Daly, aye. Dodd. Dodd not voting. Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Kim. Kim not voting. Linder. Medina. Medina, aye. Melendez. Nazarian. O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye.
That has 6 votes. We'll leave it open for the absent members.
Okay.
Chair,
thank you.
I just hope the members heard Ms. Melendez's excellent pun. I, in fact, missed part of it, but I think it's worth repeating. The one line, something about wrapping our hands around the axle. What was it?
Would you restate that for the record, Ms. Melendez?
Oh, my God. Oh, I love this committee. I said we're all getting a little wrapped around the axle regarding the alcohol in this bill.
But my famous saying is that's how we roll. So you have 6 votes. We'll leave the roll open for absent members.
Thank you.
Senator McGuire. Senate Bill 626. Good afternoon, Senator.
3 more.
And please proceed.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, committee. Really grateful to be here and talk with you about Senate Bill 626. Is in regards to the Sonoma Marin Area Rail Transit District. SMART is a new voter-approved passenger rail and bicycle pedestrian pathway. I do not think we have any bicycles quite yet. And that project is going to be located in Marin and Sonoma counties. Starting in 2016, it will serve a 70-mile corridor from Larkspur to Cloverdale, with the first phase stretching from San Rafael to the Sonoma County Airport, with the Larkspur Ferry Terminal shortly coming online. It's anticipated that the Sonoma Marin Area Rail Transit will be transporting 1 million people a year through the North Bay area. And it's going to provide a safe and secure environment, and that is the top priority of the agency. To do this, SMART is going to need a sworn chief of police to handle sensitive information involving SMART's right-of-way and safety-related issues. SB 626 would enable SMART's board of directors to establish a sworn chief of police position and contract out with neighboring law enforcement agencies for policing services. A sworn chief of police will enable the collection of vital information while giving SMART the ability to assess and address their security once they're operational. With only one law enforcement position in contracting with a neighboring law enforcement agency, SMART can reduce its costs as a public transit agency and focus on its mission, transporting 1 million folks per year. That said, with the one chief, SMART can give the right to know on information they need to know along their line, providing for a safer and more responsive agency to the riders of the North Bay area. The SMART Board of Directors, the Sonoma County Sheriff, Marin County Sheriff, Novato Police Chief, the San Rafael Police Chief, and I know folks are wondering where Central Marin is. The Central Marin Police Chief is also in support of this and wanting to be able to advance this bill. SB 626 received unanimous support out of the Senate, and I have with me today Farhad Mansourian, who is the General Manager of the Sonoma Marin Area Rail Transit Authority. And I also want to take a moment to thank Assemblymember Dodd for being a co-author on this important bill. Thank you so much, Assemblyman, very much. Mr. Chair, I respectfully ask for your aye vote, and thank you for allowing me to be here today, sir.
Do you have testimony, sir?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Farhad Mansourian, General Manager of SMART. Thank you for the opportunity to address you very quickly. As Senator McGuire said, we start service next year, serving about 70% of the population of Marin and Sonoma County. Safety and security of our passengers, protection of our infrastructures, operations center, tunnels, rails, bridges, ticket vending machine, and our dispatch center is paramount to our operation, as well as safeguarding our employees. This bill, when approved, gives us the opportunity to plan accordingly and contract accordingly by knowing ahead of time what's going on and plan for it. I'll be happy to answer any question you might have. We came up with this idea as we consulted with other law enforcement agencies in our counties, as well as other transit agencies. Thank you for your time.
Any other members of the public that have testimony in support of this bill? Seeing none, any members of the public that would wish to testify in opposition to the bill? Seeing none of that either, any questions of the committee, of the author? We have a motion from Mr. Dodd and Mr. Daly. Senator, would you like to close?
Just want to say thank you, Mr. Chair, for all of your work, and I also want to take a moment to say thank you to your staff as well. They've been fantastic to work with, and we're very grateful, and thank you for allowing us to be here today.
I'm very grateful for them also. Thank you, sir.
There we go.
Senator McGuire, I'm not convinced that the problem SMART is trying to head off by bringing on law enforcement personnel are really problems. And I say that because other transit districts don't seem to struggle with the same issues SMART is anticipating. That said, I'm a local government guy, and I want to give them every opportunity to be successful. And for that reason, I'm supporting your bill today.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
The motion is a due pass to the Assembly Local Government Committee. Frazier.
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Ashajian.
Aye.
Ashajian, aye. Baker.
Aye.
Baker, aye. Bloom.
Aye.
Bloom, aye. Campos. Campos, aye. Chu. Chu, aye. Daly. Daly, aye. Dodd. Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Kim. Kim, aye. Linder. Medina. Medina, aye. Melendez. Melendez, aye. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye. O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye.
That has 15 votes. As in the Senate, this is screaming through the Assembly. We'll leave the roll open for any of the absent members. Congratulations. So I'd like to take a moment and just in unison wish Mr. Bloom a happy birthday. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday. So yeah. So we'll move on to catching up on absent members. Madam Secretary.
On the consent calendar, Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Linder. Melendez. Nazarian. On the consent calendar, Melendez, aye. O'Donnell. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye. Consent calendar's out, 16-0. I apologize, 15-0.
We're going to pause for one just quick second. We'll hold that one open for the time being.
File item 6, SB 34. The current vote is 10-0. Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Melendez. Melendez, no. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye.
That bill's out 13-1.
File item 7, SB 64. The motion is a due pass as amended to the Assembly Appropriations Committee. The current vote is 13-0. Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye.
Did you forget me? File item 7? Huh?
You voted on that
Okay.
first time around.
Okay. Just to make sure.
It's 16-0.
That bill's out 16-0.
File item 8, SB 530. The motion is a due pass to the Assembly Governmental Organization Committee. The current vote, 6-0. Campos. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Linder. Linder, aye. Nazarian. Nazarian, not voting. To 0. That bill fails.
7-0.
8.
8-0. That bill will be granted reconsideration without objection. Reconsideration is granted with unanimous consent.
File item 9, SB 626. The motion is a due pass to the Assembly Local Government Committee. Linder. Aye. Linder, aye. That bill's out 16-0.
That bill's out 16-0.
On the consent calendar, the current vote.
Consent calendar now?
The current vote is 15-0. Linder. Aye. Linder, aye. That's out 16-0.
That bill's out 16-0 on the consent.
That's it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to adjourn this legislative business before the Assembly Transportation Committee today. Our business is complete.